A lot of Tom Aspinall and Alex Pineda talk this week, but first things first, and not a lot of heavyweight experience for Jon Jones. What is your expectation for this second act at heavyweight for Johnny?
I would like, surprisingly, to defend Jon Jones. I think there's a couple of things going on here, and I think he's being misunderstood. I believe that when Jon is saying that Stipe's insulted him and he's insulted his family, Jon is just trying to get to the right place he needs to be to leave that locker room, which is the victim. He likes to be angry with his opponent. That's a hard thing to do with Stipe. That's step one. Step two, Jon does accurately need to fully focus on the man in front of him, the most talented, the biggest, the strongest opponent that he has ever faced in Stipe Miocic, and the audience is not choosing to let Jon do that. Even the press conference, Jon is getting more questions equally about Alex Pierre and Tom Aspinall than he is about Stipe. So when Jon comes out and refuses to fight anybody else, says, I might even retire before I'll fight them, all he's really doing, he's trying to stay focused on what's in front of him, and the audience has made it as though this is some kind of an easy fight. The odds makers are supporting that. They're all wrong.
Yeah.
Jon is the one that's right. He's got a real problem in front of him at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, I agree that it's definitely a harder fight than I think a lot of people are alluding to. But I also can't tell if I think Jon is being a freaking genius with this whole Tom Aspinall. I don't want to fight this guy. Get this guy the hell out of me.
That can't be right.
Because then it's just, all we're talking about is this matchup. What's next? Dana even comes out. It should be the next. There's a whole lot of hype behind that fight if it does go off. Or either way, if it ends up being Pereira, it doesn't matter. I don't know if he's doing it on purpose, but my God, he's selling the next fight if he wants it for sure.
Well, Dana White is going to try to book whoever wins this fight against Tom Aspinall, but Jon Jones is the greatest of all time, and perhaps the promoter might listen if he does want to fight Alex Pineda. As far as this fight is concerned, weight, right? We mentioned the heavyweight division. He is leaner, Dean, than he was for the Ciryl Gane fight 20 months ago.
Well, and I think he needs to be. He just did not look, to me, he did not look good at that weight against Ciryl Gane. And we keep talking about his second time at heavyweight. I will never accept that was a fight against Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane laid down for him.
Yeah.
So to me, this is his first time at heavyweight. I think he looks great at 237, and he's fighting Stipe came in at 248, which could be a thing, but I'm interested to see how he deals with his first fight at heavyweight.
Yeah, Jon Jones fought 2 minutes in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Against Ciryl Gane, who kind of laid down. All right, out of the blue corner, though, fellas, legend in his own right, and only the most accomplished UFC heavyweight in terms of title defenses, the former two-time champ, Croatian-American Stipe Miocic. Birth certificate reads 1982, but this man, as Chael can attest, is in outstanding shape, believes he is primed to spring what would be a sport-altering upset here on Saturday night. Now, say what you want about Stipe's relative heavyweight greatness, but the most important stat is title defenses, and he's also tied for most title fight wins in UFC heavyweight history, top 5 in terms of UFC heavyweight wins, and he's entertained as well, 9 bonuses, tops all time among big men in the UFC. So in terms of what is at stake for Stipe's legacy, I think most of us, Chael, would agree if you are carving out a Mount Rushmore in MMA that starts Jon Jones, Demetrius Johnson, Stipe's not on there. Be on there if he beats Johnny Bones Saturday night.
Oh, and shockingly different position they're in. I mean, this does come back to a little bit of Jon's frustration that he's dealing with. Stipe is under no question and in no circumstance will be asked to fight Tom Aspinall. Stipe has told the world, I'm going to retire. So even if he fights Jon, his legacy is secured. To Jon's point, he goes on to the Mount Rushmore, if you will. Jon, meanwhile, can beat Stipe, and according to our headlines here in North America, he's still going to be questioned against Tom. And if Jon chooses to retire, it's because he ran from Tom. And I'm only sharing for you, these are wildly different situations for two guys that are getting ready to do the same thing against each other. And I do think the biggest part of this fight happens to be size of Stipe, who I will remind you weighed in 17 pounds, and it looked like muscle to me. 17 pounds bigger for this title fight than he did for his previous.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jon definitely has the more to lose here. Even though he's the natural 205, we're moving up to heavyweight.
Right.
Stipe's already made it clear. He just wants this one more on his resume before he sails off into the sunset. But for Jon, is he sticking around? But I also think it's self-inflicted, because then he brings up the Alex Pineda fight,
right.
And it's like we wouldn't be ragging on him if we knew this was potentially his last fight. But he's leaving it very open-ended, which, of course, we're going to start matchmaking.
Dean, much has been made of the layoffs really on both sides here, the inactivity. Stipe Miocic's last 2 fights happened essentially in a global pandemic at the UFC Apex 25-foot octagon. What are your thoughts on Stipe stepping back on the proving ground?
I don't think it's going to be a factor. I think he's such a hard worker. He's a mature individual. He's not the type of guy who's a young fighter who's going to go out there and get nervous and let the adrenaline get to him.
Right.
I think his history, he knows who he is. He's a very confident individual, and I feel like this layoff is going to be no factor. He's going to do his homework. He's going to go out there and fight his best fight.
And one thing about Stipe, I'm so sorry,
No,
Paul.
no,
One thing
jump
about
in there.
Stipe, though, is he is disciplined. He lives a life of discipline. He's a fireman first, a father, husband. It all goes into one category. He goes to the same gym with the same coaches and same teammates every day. That's a little bit unique. Not every athlete does that, and the effect of a layoff will affect him potentially less than some others.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it might even help him having that big crowd, having him go out there and feel that again. Like you talked about, John, the last time, nobody in there.
Yeah.
Small cage in the apex. That's not where a big heavyweight fight like that belongs. And now he gets that true send-off, that true vibe in the room. To be at Madison Square Garden, of all places, to be the final fight, to be doing it against the GOAT.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.